once more, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. You join me again for the Mature Racing Club Gran Turismo Touring Car Championship here at Maggiore in reverse, and we're with the Pro 1 lobby. So reverse good race. I'll explain a little bit more about that. The lights are about to go out. The TT of White Shark Ben gets an awful start. The FFs do, and indeed the Hammer Games there gets away superbly in what looks to be a 4x4. So that's going to absolutely fly off. We might as well not cover him for a few laps because he'll just bugger off into the distance. White Shark Ben actually with a decent start. CJW-Racing another TT. Nissan Elvis in the Sirocco, and then we've got a futuristic Matt Elwood in the Citroen GT. That is a car that should come good throughout the course of this race, I should imagine. Idle in his much beloved Peugeot. 30 fat kids driving the TT. We've got Zaf in the TT as well. We've got P. Camera's cut away from P. I'm going to guess he's in a TT. Oh, he's in a BMW. No, nice choice from P. That's a brave one. We've got Dylan in the TT as well. Cyrus in the TT, Diablo in the TT, and Valium in the NSX. So away we go then. Hammer Games still leading the way, but White Shark Ben is catching him, and that TT will catch him a lot quicker. The Subaru, as much as it's a good car to drive, we've seen Matt Elwood get past 30 fat kids in the background. The Subaru then, as much as it's a good car to drive around, it's not the quickest in a straight line, and that's where these TTs and the Siroccos are going to come good. 30 fat kids got back past Matt Elwood then, so the South African is down to P5 in the Citroen GT. I know it's changed further back. We can keep our eye on this leading battle as the Hammer Games is desperately defending to a horde of FF cars, absolutely piling away behind them. They're going three wide here at the top of the hill, and White Shark Ben, after having that decent start, is starting to lose out a little bit. Nissan Elvis in the Sirocco, we've not spoke about him really yet, but he's had a great start. He's up to P3, battling for P2 as well. Goes for that wide line then, that should give him a nice drive to the inside here for the final hairpin. A lot of overtakings are going to get done down here, so keep your eyes out. 30 fat kids then up into the lead, in the TT, so in the HKS mobile. The Hammer Games following through. With Nissan Elvis, Zaf is up to P4 then. We've lost Matt Elwood somewhere. He's down all the way down in P7. I want to say he's just been FF, but P is up past him as well. I just see a little bit of lag kicking in. Dylan, oh, Zaf's off in the foreground there. Is he in the Halframs mobile? A lot of lag from P's car. That's all of it shot, that is. It's like he's got my internet connection rocking. For those of you who don't know, the reason why this is so delayed is I've moved house and yeah, basically don't have internet, which means I'm just hotspotting off my phone. Dylan then's trying the brave move of getting past a very laggy P. And the problem with that lag is no one really knows where he is at any one stage in time. He could be absolutely anywhere. Matt Elwood's trying to make a resurgence here in the Citroen GT. That car should come good later on in the race when the FF start to burn the tyres out. The Citroen holds its tyres a little bit better. Same really can be said for the Hammer Games, but I speak from experience here, that car loves to burn its fronts as well, so it's just a case of him making that Subaru as wide as possible. 30 fat kids up, doing a spot of gardening on his day off here by the looks of things, but he's blitzing away at the front. In the Audi TT. Fair old gap now he's got to the Hammer Games, who's proving to be the cork in the bottle then, as Nissan Elvis is just trying to look for a way past. That Sirocco should have the drive here coming up the hill, and you can see it's just pulling all the way up the hill. It's just a case of, is he going to be brave enough on the brakes then coming into the 90-degree left-hander? You don't want to cut this one too deep. Nissan Elvis judges that to perfection then. Gets himself up into P2, but the Hammer Games actually with a really nice exit off that corner and gets himself back up. Great drive. Let's go and have a look at that from the Hammer Games' perspective actually. So we've got to jump on board with him as he loses his place to Nissan Elvis. He's in his blind spot right now, but there is a Sirocco there, trust me. There he is. She's going to lose his place. He's going to go for the cutback, I think, here, and he just goes for the drive out of this corner. And with the traction that he's got in that Subaru, he gets a really nice drive here. Look at that, just eases off the throttle to get the line. Nicely on the brakes. Actually, does go a little bit deep for argument's sake there. Misses the apex, I think, which probably is a little bit unfair on Nissan Elvis, but he has to move, mate. And yeah, Hammer Games up to P2. Zaff's followed him through. Zaff was off-roading a lap or so ago. P1 Dylan probably with the best start out of everyone. Eventually got himself up to P4 in the TT. These TTs don't start well, they have a nasty habit of just bogging down awfully over the line. Laggy P up to P6. It's just the state of that BMW. It's got more paint off it than it has on. Matt Elwood not having a race to remember at the minute. P7 for him. Waxshot Ben. You remember it started at the front of the race, but has just dropped back a little bit since. And yeah, Valium at the minute is having a bit of a race to forget. Valium's all the way down in P10. Only got 10 runners tonight, so not too difficult to cover in theory, he says, famous last words. This is Nissan Elvis's point of view, as Pete is trying to get past the Hammer Games here. Some great defending there from the Subaru driver. Again, he's just making that car as wide as possible. The BMW gets a great drive now. The Hammer Games here, if he just tucks himself under the wing of the VW, should get enough of a drive to just outpace the BMW. But he's going to have to give him space at the apex. Let's see how this goes by side. It looks like the Hammer Games backed out there and just let P take the spot. So that is the Hungarian up to P4 and already putting a charge on the Sirocco. I think these FFs are just trying to look at, oh look at that, he's going gardening as well. These FFs are just trying to look after the tyres a little bit more. They don't want to have to pit in this if they can help it. Now the FFs are faster in a straight line, but this BMW seems to have a lot of out of corner traction, so we'll see how that is. Matt Elwood then is looking for a move on the Hammer Games as well. Can Matt Elwood get the move made? He can. The HKS driver up to P5 again after being shunted down into P7 a lap or so ago. I say shunted, he might have just binned it, but I'm being nice to him. You just see how much better the Hammer Games is at just getting this turn in here. He's reeled Matt Elwood straight back in again. The Subaru's just got superior grip than any other car at this minute in time, but he just hasn't got the power. Even a Citroen's out dragging it. And if I ever say a Citroen is faster than a Subaru again in real life, you actually have permission to take me out to the forest and shoot me. But that is it. That's the Hammer Games down 2 spots as P1 Dylan then gets his way up into P6. That's what happened to Dylan. I'm sure he was P4 not long ago. Let's check in with our leader, Mr. 30 Fat Kids. Yeah, he's still there. Zaffer, you know. You see the gap then? The gap between these two, what is it now? It's 3.5 seconds then, the gap between 30 Fat Kids and Zaff. Pete is not too far behind, only a second or so behind Zaff at the minute in the BMW M4. And there's a good old scuffle kicking off for P5 between Matt Elwood and P1 Dylan. So Dylan's going to be in the superior machinery here. Even with the slipstream that Matt Elwood's getting off the Sirocco, Dylan is, I was going to say breezing past him, but the Citroen seems to have found its lifespan now. So Dylan with the inside line. Matt Elwood does have to dip out of it. Good driving between those two. Matt Elwood will probably be best served tucking up behind the wheel of the TT. It would eventually have probably got that move made on a straight anyway, so you might as well tuck up behind it. As we see everyone streaming down the field, starting to sort itself out now. You get a field of races starting to settle into a bit more of a rhythm. It's P picking up penalties everywhere. I want to say he's getting a lot of penalties, this P, this race. I don't think I've cut to him, he's not got a penalty. So whether he's taking a chunk out of that middle sector, I'm not too sure, because he can do that and pick up a bit of a penalty. We'll see. We'll go on board with him at some point and see what he's up to. Dylan then up to P4. So Nissan Elvis doesn't really put up too much of a fight against that one. Has to be said. Nissan Elvis has got more pressing matters to fight. The man is actually fighting really is Matt Elwood at the minute and the Hammer Games. He needs to really keep ahead of those two, doesn't Nissan Elvis? Probably care less about the fight that's going on directly in front of him with Dylan, P, Zaff and Fat Kids. As Fat Kids has done a 2:04.6, which is the fastest lap of the race so far. And yeah, the BMW driver at the minute, probably the most impressive, but I have a sneaking suspicion he's getting those penalties from a little bit of track cutting, so we'll see. And that is the most battered BMW I've ever seen. That's a right-off insurance job, no problem at all. Dylan then all over the back of this lad like a fat kid on chips. And Dylan going purple then, just easing the throttle down here. Dylan's easily in a quicker car down. He's having to balance the throttle to avoid running into the back of the Hungarian. He's going to go for the move down at the hairpin. I want to say the Hungarian's going to dangle it out wide. And he does indeed. So for the time being, it does remain Fat Kid, Zaf, P and Dylan. Dylan's going to go for the signature move up the inside here. If he can get a nose ahead, P's pretty much going to have no opportunity to defend it. And he does tuck up behind the TT. So what's he doing down here, P? What's he been up to? Well, that's absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that line at all. So that's been the odd accidental track cut when I went on board with him. There was absolutely no issue with it. So I'm not going to call him out for cheating. The Hammer Game's down to 7th now. Decent gap behind though to Diablo, and yeah, you can't really blame him to be fair, because that Subaru is woeful compared to some of these FF cars. Matt Elwood's doing good in 5th in a Citroen GT. But at the minute, P is doing a fantastic job in that BMW. He's sticking it to the TT drivers, and as anyone who's driven in the GTTCC Race 2 series, which is pretty much a TT one-make cup this season, you see Dylan get himself up to P2. Is Zaf going to lose another place here to P? Let's just jump on board with the Hungarian and just see what he's up to. Does he go for a look up the inside of the TT? The TT is pretty strong in these high downforce corners. A little bit of argy-bargy there. But yeah, I was just going to say the TT's weakness is corners like this that we're coming up to, where it'll be a fair bit slower in terms of getting its power down. Dylan, as you can see ahead, handling it quite nicely. For the time being, nowhere for the Halfords driver of Zaf to go. So P is up into a podium position then, up to P3. Dylan is ahead and 30 Fat Kids at this minute in time. His gap is 6.5 seconds then. So he's just managing the pace out ahead. Dylan then, P2 for Dylan at the minute in another TT. And then P, the BMW driver. Let's just ride on board with Zaf actually, just see how Zaf handles the downhill section. Yeah, takes a lot of curb, that's good. Yeah, you see P up there, look at it, yeah, he's really running track limits, his P, just to keep up with this. Might pick a little bit more of a penalty up there as well. Yeah, he's got more. That's when you're driving on the edge, really going down there. There's not a ton of grip, you're going pretty quick. It will happen from time to time. Yeah. Hammer Games has done exactly the same thing by the looks of it. So in terms of a recap, there we go. Valium still struggling in the NSX, unfortunately. He's way down the order as we approach nearing off the halfway mark of the race. We've lost a driver. Who have we lost? We had 10. White Shark Ben is no longer with us, which is unfortunate. So most pit stops have now happened. Some people are non-stopping. The gap between Fat Kids and Dylan has reduced then after the pit stop. So what I did notice is Fat Kids went onto the softs. Dylan's staying out on the super soft. So Dylan will have more pace right now. Marginally, he needs to make this section of the stint count, because his tyres are more at risk of falling off a cliff. Decent old field spread to left. Let's have a bit of a recap. We've got P, who I'm just going to rename Penalty, because he always seems to like it when he's going gardening again. Look, these Hungarians and the gardening, they love it. Yeah, Penalty is in third in the BMW. Solid result, to be fair, for the BMW. He's doing a good job in it. Another one who's doing a good job in a TT dominated field is Matt Elwood, who has also pitted. He's now doing his personal best times. Zaf has also pitted. Nissan Elvis so far either hasn't or this is out that. Diablo has just pitted. Hammer Games has been in as well. And Valium, I think, is our non-stopper. Or no, he stopped on lap 6. So he's done the undercut basically just to bring a bit of ground back in. Lost a fair few cars in the process. I might go back and have a little look at what happened to them, because we've lost idle. I think Sayrexic was in it, White Shark Ben. I didn't see any reason for him to leave, so I might go and have a look back later and see, and if it's really, really filthy, I might not include it, but we'll see. So the gardener of penalties is out again. Them tyres are going to have more grass on them than rubber at this rate, but he's staying in third. Matt Elwood, then what's the gap between third and fourth? It is at the minute 2.6 seconds. I will be interested to see if Matt Elwood can reduce that deficit. He is lapping quicker than the car ahead. Starting to get into his groove now is Matt Elwood. P last time I was a 2:06.0. But don't forget he did go off-roading. Matt Elwood is 2:05.4, so about 5 tenths in it between the two. This is Matt Elwood's view. How he can see anything out of this cockpit is utterly beyond me. Like, I want to know, I want to meet the person that designed this. Is it the same person that designed the back of the Land Rover Discovery that we've just had? You know, the one with the offset number plate. Is it the same guy? Like, or the same guy that designed the back of the Honda Civic that looks like they just couldn't stop drawing on it? Hit me up in the comments, let me know. Anyway, we're watching Matt Elwood just try and reel in a podium here. He's closing the deficit between him and P at the minute. Still continuing to improve his lap time, so that will definitely be one worth watching. Zaf is lurking in the background as well. Seems to be some cars close together in the background. We have got a three-way fight as we just catch Valium there, make a nice move on Nissan Elvis. A nice bit of respect given there at the apex as well. Tons of room given between both cars. Nissan Elvis is going to get the overspeed, I think, and Valium does just end up tucking right back into the behind the Volkswagen. These two are both stuck behind the Hammer Games in the Subaru, a car that will struggle around here, to be fair. It's more of a power circuit than a handling circuit, I'd say. Although Subaru gets a really good launch, it does tend to suffer with other elements of its racing. So when I was racing, I was in the NSX. I of course retired from the GTTCC this season round, but I quite fancied an underdog, and the NSX definitely is that underdog. Hammer Games going off-road, but that car will be a little bit more suited to it than the cars around it. Let's check back in on these two. So Matt Elwood and P, oh, that gap's really grown then. The gap now 1.5 seconds, so a 2:06.6 for P last time, a 2:05.2, so really confusing. A lot of time's been lost this lap. So Matt Elwood has lost that time. Sector 1 somewhere, he's had an incident. Time in line for Matt, yeah, it's 4.5 tenths down. So the BMW at the minute set for a podium. Matt Elwood chasing down Zaf. Zaf's lurking, doing a really good job of lurking this time round. Zaf, he's having a good stint too. His stint 1 wasn't that impressive, I won't lie. Stuck in a lot of traffic, doing a lot of fighting. He seems to have pulled it together a little bit, and the clear air is really helping him just focus on a little bit of consistency. Top 5 finish for Zaf at the minute will be pretty handy. Diablo, our friend from Down Under, kind of on his own then at the minute. Not really much to do for Diablo. P6 at the minute for the Aussie. Our homegrown Daniel Ricciardo. Nissan Elvis just about winning out of this battle then between Valium and the Hammer Games and him. Valium has got past the Hammer Games somewhere along the line. Oh, that's because he went off-roading, wasn't it? So yeah, Hammer Games went to do what Subarus love to do best. What's the gap between Fat Kids and Dylan? That is now 2 seconds flat. Fat Kids' last lap 2:05.1, Dylan's a 2:03.9. So Dylan's lapping about a second a lap quicker than Fat Kids is up ahead. We've got about 6 minutes left of this one. That's enough for 3 more laps there or thereabouts. So at the rate he's getting him, Dylan will be in range in a lap and a half-ish time. We've got a car in the pits, have we? We've got Valium in the pits. He's either sitting it out or I'm not too sure. So we're down to 9 runners. Oh, Fat Kids runs it wide there. That's going to give Dylan, who will see an increasingly larger TT up ahead of him, just the incentive to push that little bit harder. This is where mistakes can start creeping in though, especially in a TT. The front end will be starting to lose a little bit of grip now. You see Dylan's lap times are peeling off slightly. It's in the high 203s at the minute, which is great pace. They're currently holding the fastest lap of 203.6, so he ain't going slowly at all, whereas the guy ahead of him is going a second and a bit slower than he is. Don't forget, Fat Kid is on the slightly harder soft compound tyre, whereas Dylan's on the very sticky but not so long lasting super soft tyre. We'll keep an eye on that battle. P then a little bit further behind. Yeah, he's great. He's gained time on Matt Elwood. If anything, Matt Elwood's lost time here. Yeah, he's a full second down this lap over Zaf, over his fastest lap, sorry, and Zaf is reeling him in. Doing similar lap times as Zaf, but that TT should start to, well, he's got the power basically, so he should be able to offset his tyre disadvantage with pure power, as Jeremy Clarkson would say. Yeah, I think his confirmation volume has given up on this one. So we can have a look at this little battle then that's going on at the top end. So what's happening between Dylan and Fat Kids? So you can see the gap visibly under a second now. As we enter the TT's Achilles heel, but Fat Kid's doing a really good job around here. And Dylan just trying to follow in the dirty air now, just watching his lines there, just to see if the dirty air being thrown off Fat Kid's car was really starting to put him off. It didn't seem to be, and in fact you can see there just how much faster he was through the hairpin. Dylan's actually going to make an attack down here, and Fat Kids knows it, goes defensive. Dylan's going to have to go the long way around if he wants to get this P1 spot. Fat Kids has got the inside line, and Dylan will just try and put him off here. No, doesn't succeed at that point, and Fat Kid with a great defensive line holds on to P1 for the time being. We've got 3.5 minutes remaining of this one, so about another lap and a half's worth of time, and we'll see what time it is when they cross the timing beam for the 13th time of asking. For the time being, it's as you were. Fat Kids leads away to Dylan, who is quite a way ahead of the next competitor, which is Pete. Matt Elwood not far behind P, but not looking anywhere within range at the minute. Zaf's dropped off a little bit as well. No other close combat. We can keep an eye on this front fight here, which has been Fat Kids and Dylan then. So HKS against, I'm going to say he's driving for Michelin because it's the only non-P1 related sticker I can see on that car, but we'll pretend it's Michelin. You're driving for Michelin now, Dylan. So Dylan then now dipping into the 205, so that was a slow lap for Dylan, that. So plainly following another car starting to affect him. There's enough time for 2 more laps, including this one, then Dylan gets a nice tight apex there. Fat Kids has got to give him the room at the apex. That's going to compromise his line into this series of corners. And you see there, he just went deep a little bit, did give Dylan a little bit of a tap. Dylan has to back out of it at this point. Going to go for it again at the hairpin probably. Going to go for the overspeed down the hill. A jump on board a visor cam. Dylan taking as much of that curb as he dare. Fat Kids is going to go to the inside here. No, he dips back to the racing line. Obviously didn't think Dylan was going to make moves coming into that nice tight line then by the P1 driver, and this is where Dylan's been doing all his overtaking up this hill here. Fat Kid's cutting off as much of that corner as he possibly can get away with. And according to the timing screen, Dylan's ahead going into the corners, but you're going to have to rescind it because it turns into the outside line. So great driving between these two once more. About a lap and a half to go now. And this first place could be anybody's, absolutely anybody's. And 30 Fat Kids at the minute is holding station in P1, but the P1 driver is just trying everything in the rule book to get past him. He's taking wider lines, he's V'ing the corner rather than what we call U-ing it, which is just to get the car straighter sooner so he can get on the power. He's going to try it round the outside now. Dylan actually got on the brakes a little bit earlier there than Fat Kids did. and for the time being the HKS driver is staying in P1. Dylan's going to look up the inside of the hairpin though, going to get on the brakes nice and light. Just basically shows him the door on the exit. A nice move there by Dylan. And up into P1 goes the P1 driver then as we start the 15th and final lap. 30 Fat Kids has got one lap to try and get retribution on the driver ahead, but he may well just decide to settle. Oh, Dylan's gone off there. What's happened? I want to say he cooked it a bit too much on exit. We're just going to go on board with Dylan then. Might be kicking himself at this point. All he needed to do is to keep it on the black stuff. He just delays his turn, just gets on the grass. Holds it nicely though, I've got to say, he holds it really nicely, but that's like 30 Fat Kids back through into P1, and all Fat Kids has to do now is defend like a demon for a lap, and the victory shall be his. But he cuts it deep here. That's going to give Dylan the run on him at the exit. Oh, great move by Dylan just to slide up the inside, and good awareness by Fat Kids as well to let that move happen. Let's just have a look on Dylan's perspective, see how that looked. It takes two aware drivers to make racing like this happen. Fat Kids knew he was white, he would have been checking his mirrors. You can tell that by the space he leaves at the apex. Great driving, guys, absolutely superb driving. Dylan back up to P1, Fat Kids P2. Some drivers have finished the race. Zaf finishes P5, Diablo's P6, Nissan Elvis P7, then Hammer Games is going to finish P8, and Valium is P9. The top four are doing another lap though, so Dylan at the minute is leading the way in P1. Fat Kids P2. P missed a penalty with 2 seconds worth of penalties to Matt Elwood. This could change actually, because the gap is 1.4, so Matt Elwood's not carrying any penalties. P is carrying 1.8 seconds worth of penalties. He's got to get rid of those. And he's coming down to the part of the track where he loves to pick them up as well. So two different battles with two different dynamics going on here. We've got the Audi versus Audi battle right at the very top of the field for ultimate supremacy in this race, and then we've got the battle between the South African and Hungarian for P3. Which you will think could actually go anywhere. P's 1.7 seconds worth of penalties now. Matt Elwood hasn't got any. All Matt has to do really is just stay in range, and third place is his. So 30 Fat Kids then, has he got the move done? He's going to have to. His last chance is coming up into the hairpin. Got to get a good exit here. I don't think he's close enough to Dylan. I think Dylan's got this one in the bag. Unless he nails the wall on the exit, he will have this P1 spot all sealed up. So P1 Dylan is going to come home to take P1 in the race at Maggiore. 30 Fat Kids is going to come home in P2. A great race from both those two. A little bit of a collision then between those two, but Matt Elwood slows to let the Hungarian through. We'll go back and have a look at what happened there. So on board with penalty. He's getting hassled by the Citroen then. Citroen filling his mirrors. All Matt Elwood has to do really is just stay there. Doesn't have to go for a move here. P leaves the door wide open, admittedly, and then turns in on him, so I don't know what that was about. Burns a lot of penalty off in the process, and then just gives up. So Matt Elwood P3, P4.